Good morning, Geauga County, Lake County, northeastern Ohio, and all parts around the world that may be live streaming this program on Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube. And we know that that's all doable. And we've got some people listening from Wisconsin. And shout out to all of our relatives, all of my relatives up in the Madison, Wisconsin area, Sun Prairie. But there is, believe it or not, a small little group of people in Wisconsin that are conservative. And so we're going to be talking about various topics today, have a little bit of fun. We are streaming now to Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, and I'm seeing people show up. So if you want to be involved, you can chat with us on any of those platforms. You can also call us at 440-946-9468. You can email us at voiceofgeauga@gmail.com. Jonathan, we must really frighten people because they don't call in. I know they're listening because yesterday I just talked to two people from Mentor, Ohio. A shout out to all the folks in Mentor, Ohio, who listen every day. And one of the people said, I love what Skip and Jonathan have to say, but I don't like Skip. And so I'm not sure exactly how that works. But
it's all you, Skip. You're intimidating.
It's all a
I'm the
shout
nice
out.
guy here.
That's right. You must be. Everybody loves Jonathan and
That's
hates
not
me. I know it's a love-hate relationship. It's an Oreo cookie thing. This morning I have with me my son Trevor, who's up from South Carolina, retired Marine, and he's my bodyguard today. So anybody who wants to give me a hard time, I would be very careful. But he's actually a soft and mushy guy who's doing God's work down in South Carolina. He does missions to the military. So say good morning, Trevor.
Good morning.
And
And thanks for letting me be on the show.
So he's gonna
welcome to the show.
He's gonna kibitz from a younger person, younger than me, position, and he might be your age, Jonathan. Now that I'm thinking about it, but also as a former Marine, a military guy, seeing what's going on in the military, and President Trump and um, Keith Hegseth and a number of people are kind of cleaning up what was made into a real mess. We had military people wearing dresses and doing kind of silly stuff. And that wouldn't happen in my day, I can tell you that. Um, but
no way.
We allowed that to happen. In any case, we want to do a shout out. We didn't mention this yesterday. I should have. We have an anonymous sponsor that has sponsored this program for this week. And if our anonymous sponsor is listening this morning, thank you. We appreciate you because this program cannot exist without those people that support us monetarily. And we want to thank our anonymous sponsor, plus the VFW in Chardon and Middlefield, and the American Legion out of Chardon and Newberry. And so those are our sponsors for this week's program. And we want to give you a shout out and say thank you to those guys, and to our anonymous sponsors. We want you to frequent his business, wherever that is.
Well, I'll tell you, Skip, this new anonymous donor to sponsor us for this week is new. He's a new contributor to Voice of Geauga, and that's a good cue to go to voiceofgeauga.com, and whatever you can do. We are putting this together. This is a labor of love. As I've said before, there are a number of us in and around Geauga County who want to keep Geauga Geauga. Or in other words, I like the expression, don't Cuyahoga or Geauga. There is a concerted effort to bring in bad stuff and make Geauga something that it isn't. From high density housing to pushing water and sewer projects to development that does not fit in Geauga County. We've touched on it before, but it is a hot topic right now, talking about these AI data centers. That's something that's sure to rear its ugly head in Geauga County. And where are you going to turn to for the news and information about what's happening? Who's fighting back? Who the good guys are? Who the bad guys are? Who's going to ask the hard-hitting questions about things like our county auditor's office and ADP? By the way, there's a meeting coming up we're going to touch on this afternoon. You may want to go and attend. and listen in. But who will ask those questions if Voice of Geauga weren't on the air? That's a prompt. We encourage you, whatever you can do. It is, as I said, it's a labor of love, but it's not free. It's not inexpensive to put out the newspaper, the radio show, and the podcast. Please visit Voice of Geauga and find others as well. Contribute what you can. It all helps. Many hands make light work. Also, while you're at it, while you've got your computer up and you're going to voiceofgeauga.com, hit us on social media, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. Click that like button and don't forget to click that bell to get notifications when we go live. Back to you, Skip.
As you said, there's a lot going on in Geauga County, and I'm going to do a little of a free spot for Destination Geauga. Destination Geauga is actually one of my favorite organizations in Geauga. They let a lot of people know what's going on. I'm going to reach out to them and see if they can put Voice of Geauga in their listing. I see others in the listing, but there's a couple of activities going on today. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's going to be a Mapletown Tune Traders. Singers and musicians take turns presenting tunes as others join in. All musician genders and instruments are welcome. And that's a free event. That's going to be at Westwoods Nature Center, which is,
that's a nice
right.
spot.
Yeah, it's right off. It's beautiful. It's right off of 87. There's also going to be on the 30th a Nature Trek fitness hike. And that's going to be from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Headwaters Park. And it's again free, Old State Road in Clarendon. So there's a couple of things going on at Destination Geauga. You can find out a lot more about other events. And a shout out to Destination Geauga. We're your friends here at Voice of Geauga. And so you can go find them at destinationgeauga.com. And so there's a lot of other stuff going on. I will get kind of our topic of the day started. I'm going to point out something kind of funny and interesting. You know, we have Stu show up. I haven't seen him show up yet in our chat.
Oh yeah,
we have fun with Stu because Stu says some goofy, what we consider goofy things sometimes. But there were some people apparently protesting at Walmart in Middlefield, claiming that Walmart supports the masked Nazis, referring to ICE, of course. Our law enforcement guys who were put in place by Congress under the law to do something good for our country, and that is to remove people who came here illegally across the border, to detain them, to take the amongst them, not everybody's a problem, but some of those people crossing the border, to be clear, some people are rapists, murderers, criminals from other countries. And so ICE is attempting to remove them. And the thing, just one little bugaboo that the Democrats always say, well, you got to have a warrant. No, you don't have a warrant. A warrant is when you're going to search something. And so actually, if somebody has gone through the legal process, they've been determined to be here illegally, and they've got a detainer or something to remove them, to deport them back to their country. You don't need a warrant for that. They've already gone through due process, been determined to be a problem, and you can remove them from the street without a warrant. Sorry, Dems, got it wrong again.
Oh, Skip, you're putting so much thought into this.
I know.
You're thinking about the law and regulations and Congress and all those sorts of things. Wouldn't it just be easier to just have an emotional response and just be told, police bad, we must defund police? Wouldn't that make life easier? Just listen to whatever sort of narrative the left pumps out and just turn against. Don't support the thin blue line, but turn against police. I'm, of course, being facetious here.
Yeah, the facts tend to interfere with the Democrats sometimes. And it didn't used to be that way. When I was growing up, and I've said this before, in my house, we had a bunch of Democrats. My father was a Democrat. I never was. But we would hear various viewpoints across the dinner table, or when we would go to family events, and it was Democrats versus Republicans. It was all about policy. It was all about ideas and thoughts. And now the Democrats have just gotten crazy. And I know you have something after the break you want to read. We're coming up on the break. But
I do.
But I don't really understand this current crop of left-wing liberal Democrats. Although there's some very positive news on that. Some of the crazies out of Texas actually lost their seats, thank goodness.
Yep.
And so we'll talk more about that. But I just can't get my head around some of the goofiness that I'm hearing from some of the Democrats, and others are supporting them. AOC, when she says some of those stupid things she's saying, this new guy that's running for office with a Nazi tattoo, who vilified another veteran, a wounded veteran, a Purple Heart, how that can even happen without the Democrats standing up and saying, no, we don't accept this. But no, they're accepting it. Bernie Sanders is endorsing this crazy guy. Of course, that's two communists supporting one another. So
Yeah.
it's just crazy. The world we're living in, as Mike Trevisano used to say, I just can't understand it.
I just can't understand this world we're living in. We are indeed coming up on a break. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. Click that like button. When we come back, as promised, we're going to touch on something that may be a bit revealing. Yesterday, during the show, Skip and I were talking about what is it actually that the Democrat Party has to offer beyond hate and division. I think we may have stumbled onto the answer. I think we figured out what it is that the Democrat Party offers. We're going to come back with that on the other side of the break. Remember, you can join the conversation at any time, 440-946-9468. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right. If you are continuing to hear us, that means that you are following us on social media. You're listening to the podcast. This is a podcast of a radio show. Right now, we're on break. This is a commercial break on the radio show that's broadcasts on WINT radio out of Lake County. You can catch that audio only, either by going to wintradio.com or voiceofgeauga.com. In addition to the radio show, we have a podcast. So this is our opportunity to sort of catch a little breath, take a couple of sips of coffee, talk about what we want to cover when we come back from the break. So I like to say that every once in a while because periodically, as we gain new audience, people might stumble upon this and wonder, why is this? It looks like a podcast, but sometimes they're not speaking. It's because we're on break right now. There are, oh yeah. So that's a great correction, Nana Sherrill. Nana Sherrill says, Triv said, I'm living in a world I don't understand. That is
exactly.
more
Didn't I say that?
direct.
Isn't that what I said?
It was close, very, very close.
I had a birthday yesterday. I'm getting old, and so I something. And by the way, everybody who's listening on our streaming channels, you're local, and many of you in Geauga County, not everybody. But if you want to have some fun today, go to the county commissioner's office around 1 o'clock. The auditor is going to go through his budget hearing, and that's going to include ADP. I have a feeling there's going to be some tough questions
30
asked.
30 seconds.
And I would love to have somebody go with a camera and film that. I would be there today, but I have family here from out of town, and I've got another meeting, a Metropolitan Housing Authority meeting at noon. So, but
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool. Joining him in studio is his son, Trevor. Trevor is a recently retired Marine joining us on air today, and I'm Jonathan Broadbent. We're your hosts. We're talking about all things Geauga, Lake, and Northeast Ohio. We want to interject that anybody with time and the ability to go to the county administration building on Ravenwood, go at 1 o'clock today. Well, let's double check the calendar. I've heard 1 o'clock and I've heard 2 o'clock, but at either 1 or 2 this afternoon is a meeting with the auditor, County Auditor Chuck Walder, who at this point, as things stand, has been defeated by a total of 4 votes to incoming Joe DeBoff. There is a recount, actually, I think today, it's taking place today, that likely, it seems likely based on historical context, that will just be a formality just to completely seal the deal and finally approve Joe DeBoth as our new county auditor. But that aside, today, this afternoon, there is an auditors meeting. They'll be covering all sorts of things like that ADP group that we've talked about frequently on this show. It is a very large pool of money that goes in to pay a very large staff, all of whom are well compensated. And the most recent reports I saw, all of whom, including the gentleman running it, who is a salaried employee, all collect overtime, which is an eye opener. It's a head scratcher. Like, how are you a salaried employee and also collecting significant amounts of overtime? Anyway, that meeting will be taking place this afternoon. Skip will be unable to attend. He's got another noon county meeting. But anybody that's able to go, Skip, will that take place in the commissioners' meeting room on the third floor?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So we'd love to hear back from anybody that's able to go and attend that. I'm going to, well, actually, so there's a couple of things have shown up in the chat on Rumble. There's a great comment here that apparently the direct quote that was said often from Triv, it's Mike Trevisano, was, "I'm living in a world I don't understand." So that's a subtle but important distinction there. There is a comment from Gardens of CH that we can pray for Stu to leave the dark side and come to the light. Hey, anything's possible.
So,
With God, all
Stu,
things
if
are
you're
possible.
listening out there, Stu, we're praying for you.
We are. We're praying for you, Stu.
And you're welcome on the program anytime. If you want to, kibitz or have some of your comments revealed, we would love to hear from you, and you'll be treated with respect and kindness. We'd love to have you on the program just to get the other side. Very few people from the other side like to call this program for some reason. I like to think that it's because they can't defend their goofy positions, but who knows why? I mean, I know that we've got people listening and we're aggravating them, and they're throwing the coffee cup up against the wall right now as we speak. But we apologize for that aggravation. But you're more than welcome to call in, give us your viewpoint. We'd love to hear from you. But go ahead, Jonathan. You had this thing you read to me this morning before the show began. I'd love to have you read that for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as debate, I just tell you, Skip, I gave up on that years ago. I was calling for years. I just thought that the other side, the people advocating for the things that I am discouraging, would be willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me and debate. And so far, I've said it thousands of times. There are no takers. There's no interest in a constructive, productive debate from the other side. They just want to shout and throw tantrums. So, as promised, this actually is another Michael Smith post. I've mentioned Michael Smith several times. I follow him on a couple of different social media platforms, including Facebook. Michael Smith, I think, is a great writer, and he's a good, clear, deep thinker. This article has to do with something that we brought up yesterday on yesterday's Voice of Geauga program, which is, what is it actually that the Democrat Party has to offer? Is it only just hate and division? Because to those of us who don't like this stuff, we see that most clearly. The Democrat Party has adopted communist policies. They advocate for bigger government, more control, more tracking, all these things that we balk. We don't like those things. So we ask the question, what is the attraction? What is it that the Democrat Party actually has to offer? Michael Smith stumbles onto the answer here in this post. And actually, of all things, the title of the post is The Pedro Promise. And it references sort of a silly movie that I vaguely remember from some years ago called Napoleon Dynamite. That movie, it seemed like a weird movie to me. I only liked the dancing scene because there's the kid when he starts dancing I thought that was kind of hilarious. Other than that, I've kind of forgotten about the movie. But the point of it is to say the actual appeal of the Democrat Party is promises. In the movie, it basically boils down to some high school kids, and they're running Pedro, for class president. And the promise is vote for Pedro and we'll make all your wildest dreams come true. The Democrat Party is the real world version of Pedro. Give us more power and we'll make your wildest dreams come true. And it goes on from there. Are you unsuccessful and looking for something to blame other than yourself? We can do that. Billionaires are at fault, not you. They got rich by taking the money that was supposed to be yours. Don't think you should have to work to provide for yourself because you have other things you would rather do? We can make that happen with universal basic income. If you are important enough to us, we might even set you up with a sweet NGO to fund you. I'm going to skip a few of the words. It uses cuss words, which I don't repeat. And we'll do it all off of the taxpayer back. So that basically goes on from there. It's actually a very compelling and interesting article, but the gist of it gives us a glimpse into what's happening. What's the actual appeal of the Democrat Party? What they're saying is a steady drumbeat of making people miserable, hate themselves, hate others, feel like they're in an identity group and that their identity group is oppressed, and then promise them things. If you're in identity group Z, if you are whatever, it doesn't matter, fill in the blank. You can make thousands and thousands of them. Put people in this identity group, antagonize them into misery, and then tell them the way out of your misery is to vote Democrat. That's the gist of it. That's the appeal. That's the promise. So just as this article alludes to, this vote for Pedro, I'm almost tempted to go back and rewatch the movie to see, because I don't remember. I don't get the context. It's been too long, and I didn't really enjoy the movie. But you get the idea of it. So Skip, there it is. We were asking yesterday, beyond just hate and division, what is it people are finding attractive about it? And actually, I'm going to take it one step further. There are people that get sort of a dopamine rush off of the idea of helping some other class of people that are victimized. If you can view yourself as the savior of some victim class, there's a rush that people get from that. So you're told that women are oppressed, that they've come up with this people of color uh, handle, or anyone non-white, they're all oppressed. And it's just endless breakdown. Your sexuality, you're sexually repressed. If you really want to be gay, but you're not recognized, and the Democrat Party will make it all better, because we're going to be your knight in shining armor, and come out and help you to overcome the oppression. That's the basic gist of it. And they promise it over and over and over again. And throughout the country and throughout the world history, it has a 0% success rate. The Koreans were promised things as Kim Jong-il came out and took control of Korea. You have Soviet Union expanded, Maoist China, Cuba, Venezuela. People are told that they're victims, and that the only way that they're going to be made to feel better is if they eliminate their existing system of government and replace it with socialism. That's the appeal. What do you think, Skip?
Yeah, I mean, I have to laugh at, and I'm gonna actually, I'll warn my son. I'm gonna ask him to weigh in on the military viewpoint, because he just got out of the military and he's in touch with a lot of people who are still in the military. But I listened to this Bernie Sanders and this goofball. I can't remember his name, running for was it Congress in Maine. I can't remember his name. Anyway, they're touting they're against authoritarianism, and yet they're promoting Mondami style Marxism, communism, which is 100% authoritarian. So Mondami just came out and said they were going to take over mismanaged apartment complexes and give it to the government, and the government is all authoritarian. Everything it does, if it's government and it's making mandates, we have to pay stupid gas taxes because they say we do, and we have to follow EPA rules because they say we do, because that's authoritarianism, and so they say one thing and then they are projecting and making a
Yep.
claim, and so it's like you're a homophobic if you agree with the family structure, traditional family structures, and a man and a woman, and so on and so forth. But if they really knew what phobic meant, that means a fear of, and few of us have a fear of anybody that happens to be uh, sexually confused. So it's the goofiest thinking, and they can't really defend
Skip, I
these
need to
positions. So
interrupt. We're coming up on a break. Don't forget, you can call in and join the conversation, 440-946-9468, or find us on social media. There's a very robust conversation taking place on Rumble in particular. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
it's interesting. A lot of our folks know Rumble, but many people that I talk to still don't understand what Rumble is, and so they go to
Yep.
Facebook because that's the more commonly known um, tool. But
I don't know what Rumble is.
you don't know what Rumble is?
No.
Yeah, yeah. Here's Rumble.
I'm in touch with the new generation. I don't know what Rumble is.
This is Rumble, and Facebook. Rumble has far more followers for us than does Facebook, but it is a Facebook, YouTube, social.
It's like YouTube, only without the censorship.
Ah, got it.
So YouTube does a lot of censorship
Yeah.
of content. Rumble doesn't.
Okay.
So that's the key distinction. If you know who Jeff Bongino is, Jeff Bongino is the key figure behind launching Rumble.
Got it. I don't know who Jeff Bongino is, but if it is an opportunity to just voice your opinion without censorship, I like it.
Yep. Yeah, that's what free speech is all about. Should be, all of these platforms should be free speech. I'm still in shock over what happened during COVID, with people being deplatformed for questioning the shots and mask protocols and all that stuff. There are people like me. I'm still off of LinkedIn. 6 years I've been off of LinkedIn. I got kicked off because my wife is a heart failure patient, and I started following a group of doctors and medical clinicians who were talking about heart implications of the shots. So I was commenting and talking in that group. I was actually paying for one of their services, $880 a year, for something they call Sales Navigator. And just poof, they just pulled the plug and deleted my profile. So the lack of free speech is still shocking to the American system.
Yeah, and I'm going back and forth right now with some folks. I decided to make a comment on the next door. And so it's very funny because I got a bunch of supporters out there. But one of the people said, Claypool's got to go and all of his cronies. And so I responded, I got cronies? Wait a minute. That's fantastic. I didn't know I had cronies. And so he must be referring to you, Jonathan. You're a crony of mine. So.
Oh, I am? I guess I always wondered whether I was a crony or not. Apparently I said another name.
You
I
said
didn't
Jeff.
say Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino is the name of the gentleman behind Rumble. Whatever. Maybe I just need a few more sips of coffee. I said another Bongino. It's Dan Bongino.
Is he the one with the podcast?
Well, yeah, he does have a podcast.
He does.
I know who he is.
Used to be a secret service agent, and
I've listened to his show.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
I like Dan Bongino. So apparently I said some other name, but that happens sometimes. Next door is a leftist cesspool. That is absolutely true. I've gotten kicked off of that 5 times I've never violated the community standards.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, his son, Trevor, who is a retired Marine, now working as a man of God. and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. We're talking about the spread of socialism, communism, Marxist ideas, where they're coming from, and how they're being pitched to the next generation in America. And by all means, we could absolutely go back and tie this in with conversations we've had many, many times on this show about the state and the status of the American education system, the education industrial complex, as I like to call it. And don't forget, if you're thinking that your school district or your community or your county or your region is exempt from that, ask yourself the question about where the teachers come from and what the state of education is at education campuses. The teachers have to be taught to teach, and they have to get teaching certificates, and they have to get ongoing approval to continue to teach. All of that leans very far left. And you look at the actions and the voice and positions of teachers' unions, it's all very far to the left nationally, from coast to coast, north to south. But back to the matter at hand, I want to encourage people to go to a website called victimsofcommunism.org. Victimsofcommunism.org. Share it with your family, share it with young children, and make sure that people know the implications of communism. Skip, before we went to break, I had to rudely interrupt. Let's go back to you.
And yeah, I've got some friends. I should bring them on. They came from countries that had socialism to this country, perceiving it to be a free country. And now they're disappointed in where things are headed. And they constantly are telling me, come on, we got to wake people up because the socialism, Marxism, communism stuff that we're seeing today is what we left. And there's no place else to go. We came here to escape that nonsense, and now we're seeing a lot of that. And young people, I don't understand. Well, I do understand it, and it's a lot of the reasons that you said, Jonathan, that our education system, unfortunately, is misinforming our youth, and then
Yep.
getting them all screwed up. And they haven't developed the mental critical thinking skills yet to be able to challenge some of the stupid stuff they're being taught in school in terms of, this whole concept of a billionaire is stealing your money. That is just the dumbest, stupidest. And if you're a Democrat out there, please call me and tell me how I'm wrong. But it's the dumbest idea in the world. They don't steal anything. They run a business. You can choose to do business with companies like Amazon or choose not to do business with companies like Amazon. They provide a service, they provide things of value, and so in that process, they build wealth. And they ended up building, and it's because of people wanting to do business with them that they're able to become a billionaire. And their ability to get wealthy does not take away from somebody else's ability to create a competing business to compete with them and create $1 billion. And so that's the goofiest thinking. Yes, there's some abuse that goes on, and hopefully we're able to thwart that. But generally, the best response is a free enterprise response because it is what has succeeded time and again in lifting people out of their poverty. But all that said, there's so much goofiness, and we could take that on. Unfortunately, Charlie Kirk used to be really good at that, and he got murdered for it. But I wanted to kind of ask my son because he came out of the military and he runs with a different crowd than I run with or that you run with, Jonathan. We hang out in Geauga County, which is primarily a conservative county, and so we're with like-minded people, generally speaking. And so, but I'm kind of curious in South Carolina and in the
Mm.
military, and because he has a chance to get exposed to lots and lots of different diverse opinions. And by the way, he's probably the most adept person that I know at being able to debate somebody and diffuse them. I just get mad and raise my voice. He's able to maintain calmness, and he gave me a book. I'm reading it called Tactics, which teaches you to be able to debate somebody. But I'm kind of interested in his opinion on what he's hearing out there. So, do you want to join us?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the question because I think it is a kind of, it helps to kind of figure out all the confusion that's going on in our world today. And I kind of boil it down to selfishness and self-seeking comfort is my perspective. In the Marine Corps, we have a lot of phrases that essentially keep you away from comfort, because comfort puts you in a place of complacency and ultimately death. So if you're going to combat, it's about lethality moving forward, even when you're in an uncomfortable position. And so with a worldview or a perspective shift that we come from, it's really a lot of comfort-based decisions is what it seems like our society is making. They want to be what they want to be. They don't want to sacrifice their own personal selfishness for the betterment or for the gain of others. And so in the world that I run in, our worldview is a bit different. So you have a secular perspective and a Christian perspective. One perspective produces something that is in the betterment of others, and one is in a self-seeking perspective. And so I would say, from my perspective and in the community that I still work in, we seek to be a little bit uncomfortable. Now that may sound uncomfortable for those who are listening, or for those who are not used to it. But we seek opportunities to have conversations that are a bit outside our normal conversations. We seek to put ourselves in places like Charlie Crooks is a great example, to go sit in a location where people will just fire verbal rounds at him, and he has to absorb them and figure out how to speak back in a way that will have an end state that is in their best intent and a larger group's best intent. And he did a really good job at that. I think that's really uh, kind of the goal. And so the book Tactics is a great way to do that. Gregory Kokel writes that book, and it provides three powerful tools to just have a conversation with people and to get to the root of what they're saying, the idea of what they're saying, and have a meaningful debate slash conversation. And you don't have to come out. The goal of the book is not to change somebody's mind. The goal of the book is to understand their perspective, and the goal of the book is to be able to speak back to their perspective and understand that it may not agree with your perspective. That's okay. That's the beauty of our free speech that, Jonathan, we were talking about a little bit earlier. Is you're okay. It's okay to have your own opinion. It's okay to voice that opinion. We're allowed to do that right now. If we continue down the path we're going down in some of our political spheres, it won't be okay. But for right now, we've got it. And for those of us who have served on the front lines, we will continue to serve on the front lines to the point of death, in order to preserve that for the next generations, or conserve that if you're conservative, I guess. One of your Rumble chats, I'm new to Rumble, but one of your Rumble chats said that this is kind of human nature. It says human nature is rebellious, so revolution and chaos satisfies their need for rebelling. And that is from
Yep.
Gardens of CH, I think it says. My glasses are not reaching that far. As I get older, I need some better ones.
You got it. I think you got it just right.
Yeah. I think that is in my perspective, a satanic perspective, right? The devil likes chaos because he can work best in that. He likes where there is not unity, and what oftentimes people do is they pervert ideas or concepts, and for their own self-interest again, and that brings chaos 100%. And that's where they work best, because that will allow for a disjointed community. And there's no power in disunity. There's power in unity.
By the way, speaking of the Rumble chat, before the show started, I took opportunity to thank Trevor for his service. There are also comments in the Rumble chat. I like to always pause where our servicemen and women are concerned and thank them for their service. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, Trevor. We recognize the sacrifice that you made in going into armed services. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jonathan.
So I actually, a little bit earlier, I went on to the Destination Geauga website and found the calendar that Skip referenced, and I put a link to it in the chat in both Facebook and Rumble. So you can go and follow that chat. I'm going to try to do the same with this book, Tactics, that Trevor is referencing. I'll see if I can find a link to that book And anybody that's interested in that, try to leave that in the chat so more of us can learn more about tactics, because you can never have too many good tactics in life.
Oh, it's a it's a hard, it's a fun book to read. One of the points that I took away from it, and I've been trying to practice the tactics, quote unquote, that the guys offer, but it's really hard when you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody and you disagree with them to maintain your calmness and being able to do the mental gymnastics necessary to kind of challenge what they're saying. And I know we're coming up on a break, but one of the things was to plant a seed. So you're not, as Trevor said, trying to change their mind, but you can plant a seed before you leave that conversation. So let's talk more about that on the other side of the break.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find the author's name to confirm this. Tactics, a Game Plan for Discussing Your Christian Convictions, is a book by apologist Gregory Kunkel.
Kokel.
Does that sound correct? Cool.
That's
Cool.
correct.
Okay, good. I'm going to grab that link. I will share that. And when we come back on the other side of the break, we will continue the conversation of how to I don't know if I'll call it bridge the divide between social communism, Marxism, etc., and the American way. But I do think that we need to have more conversation about what's happening and why. We'll come back with this conversation and more on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right, so I'm finding a few different resources for this Tactics 10th Anniversary Edition.
And it is a great book, and it leads with a title that says A Christian Approach, which it is, but the majority of the book doesn't actually reference Christianity so much as the tactics and um, the different approaches for having a conversation with other people. And it's actually a very good book. I'm actually reading it for my second time now. By the way, to the people on the Rumble channel, I'm going to share a recipe with you today. So there's, as Jonathan's looking up the book Tactics, I made some homemade French onion dip yesterday for the family coming over. And it's basically 1 to 1.5 onions, two garlic cloves. You caramelize that, and then you cool it. You mix that with a pint of sour cream. I use low-fat sour cream, and a dash, maybe a couple of tablespoons of Greek yogurt, and then a squirt of mayonnaise, probably 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. You mix all that up. I put in chives and parsley and some salt and pepper, and it makes a great onion dip.
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
So there you go.
French onion dip.
French onion dip. If you like French onion dip, and then I've got another tip for you, I'm healthy potato chips.
Which are delicious.
Which are delicious. My family loves them. They kind of get hooked on them after a while. They're made in the microwave, actually.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Just a potato and salt.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, his son, joining his guest in studio with Skip, Trevor, and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. I'm going to interject something that may sound strange to you, but I want to maybe shift perspective and get people thinking a little bit differently. And I'm going to quickly put this in the context of real estate. Often, real estate, it gets depressed. It gets beat up. In some areas, you may find the market tanks and everything for a while gets really inexpensive. And suddenly, it seems like just about the time when everyone gets their head around, like, oh, you don't want to buy any property there, that area is terrible. That's, there's nobody's buying property. The values of real estate and land and homes is very low. All of a sudden, it seems like overnight, virtually everybody's buying there, and the property values are skyrocketing in some area. My reason for bringing that up is in my lifetime, we have looked at places like California as being very far left, liberal, ultra progressive. They're voting in social communism, and they have a, oh my gosh, Gavin Newsom is a progressive nightmare. And while that's all true, here's the interesting thing. We see a movement toward Marxist, socialist, communist ideas in places like Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin, and interestingly, California is really showing great signs of fighting back. That ties in with the knowledge. Now that I've jumped in and done the research, people talk about blue states and red states. I've come to the firm conclusion there is no such thing as a blue state. There are none. There are 100% of the United States states at a state level are primarily red. They are people who love America and support our values and value systems. There are giant blue dots like Ohio has Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, uh, Cleveland,
Cleveland, yeah.
Toledo. So these giant blue dots overwhelm. Same thing happened to California. But my point is, keep a keen eye on what's happening in California because there, I think the pendulum is starting to swing back. And you have this Pratt fellow who's running for Spencer Pratt. There's a great comment from HC Online. LA Mayor candidate Spencer Pratt is doing a great job at focusing on root cause, while Bass, that's the current mayor, offers empty platitudes. Well, we're seeing a lot of empty platitudes and we're seeing people vote for them in places like Ohio, which is frustrating. So maybe we could use California now not as something to be a word of caution, but maybe we're starting to see the signs of hope for coming back from the brink of communism in places like California. So I just wanted to interject that. Back to you, Skip.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do when you run across people in Geauga County? We have. It's interesting to look at the division. If you look at the Board of Election website, it shows a pie chart that shows Democrats versus Republicans versus independents. And since I've moved here, the slice that are now unaffiliated or independent has grown, and the other two slices have shrunk. But right now, the Republican slice is much bigger. You still have Democrats and people from the Green Party. We got like a half a dozen of them, or people from the Bernie Sanders Socialist Party or the Communist
Well,
Party.
Skip, could I quickly
Sure.
interject just for clarification? In Ohio, people are moved into the quote unquote independent category if they don't vote in the primary elections, which unfortunately is a vast majority of Ohioans. We typically only hit in the teens as far as the voting percentage, which means most people during primary elections, like the one that just took place on May 5th, most people in Ohio sit home and don't participate. That automatically puts them in the quote unquote independent category. It doesn't mean that they themselves are necessarily independent and non political. It just means that that's the category that the Board of Elections puts them in.
Well, if they chose to be put in that category, because they're not voting in the primary. So, for whatever reason, they're not engaging in a party. They're not engaging in the Democratic Party. They're not engaging in the Republican Party. They're not engaging in the primary process. They may come out in a general election, which is, again, telling in a different way. But the point where I was trying to get to was there's a mix of people in Geauga County, and we ought to be able to have a conversation with everybody on all sides in Geauga County. And some people have some really goofy thinking, in my opinion. They might think that my thinking is goofy, but I can't understand that. But it's possible. And so, and I've had conversations with some of my friends who are Democrats, and we have fortunately have good friends. Even the Democrat friends tend to be very rational in their thinking and their approach. Some are not. Some just scream and yell and shout these most ridiculous things like Nazi. Do they really understand history and what Nazi is? It's foolish to even call somebody a Nazi in this world, unless somebody's killing a lot of people and, you know, promoting um, a particular group of people.
Socialism.
Yeah, well, it's
That's what it is.
socialism,
It's the
but
German Socialist Workers'
yeah,
Party.
yeah. But in any case, you ought to be able to have a rational conversation with people. And so we started this off with saying that the Democrats really have gone to a dark place, and only they can fix that. And so I'd love to go into the Democratic headquarters located on 87 and ask them, why are you supporting Sherrod Brown? Sherrod Brown did nothing for the state of Ohio the entire time that he was in there. Nothing. Not one thing. I challenge any of the Democrats out there to call us and tell us one thing that Sherrod Brown did for the state of Ohio. 440-946-9468. And yet the Democratic Party will hold him up and try to promote him as their candidate. They picked the worst candidates and support them and fall behind them. Why? I just don't. It's really hard to understand. But we need to be able
Skip,
to.
if I could use
Sure, go ahead.
if I could use that as a segue back to Trevor, there's a great comment here. The approach Trevor describes is only possible if you are calmly confident in your viewpoint, which comes from careful thought. That is anathema to emotion led folks who don't know critical thinking. So, Trevor, can you give us more on that and the calm assertion of truth versus an emotion led response to the world around us?
Uh, that's a great question. Being calm on the exterior or outside doesn't mean you're calm inside. Oftentimes, the conversations with people who are speaking with direct insults burn you inside. You're flaming inside, and you have to figure out how to use an internal fire extinguisher to put that thing out. But what it really
Hmm.
gets down to it is when you listen to the perspective that they may be espousing or bringing forth, that oftentimes their perspectives you have to hear them, and they may not know any other perspective. It may not be that they're really angry at you. It may be that they're stealing somebody else's thoughts and presenting them to you in a way, the only way they know how, the only way they've learned. And so getting through that, cutting through all of that hate that is thrown in your direction is a skill. That is a true statement. That is something you have to get back to. But understanding the underlying reason that you have the conversation is because you care, is because you really want to get to an end state, because you really want to have a conversation that is productive and in the best interests of the individual, our country, and a globe that we are here to take care of and to change. And truth is the root, right? Hence the reason we do what we do is because truth is the key to unlocking so many of the pains that exist in our personal lives, in our communities, and in the globe. So I think
It's
that's it.
it's the bedrock for sure. Unfortunately, we're coming up on the conclusion of the show. We want to thank Trevor specifically and just a heartfelt thank you for jumping into the studio and joining today's conversation and for
Thank
all
you.
that you have done and are doing. This has been another episode of Voice of Geauga. Remember, visit voiceofgeauga.com and follow us on social media. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with more conversation. Thanks for tuning in.